Hey everybody, welcome back to Let's Play Katawa Shoujo Part 3. And today we continue our silly conversation with Misha and Shizune as they try to recruit me into the student council, but I'm not going down without a fight. In order to atone for hurting a young girl's feelings, you should definitely join the student council. No! How about a game of paper football instead of rich man, poor man? Paper football? Yeah, it's a game they play in America. You make a paper triangle, and then you try to shoot it past goalposts that the other player makes with their fingers. Isn't it cool? It's the ultimate form of competition between two people, He-chan. And it's also played by elementary and middle school children, She-chan. That means it's a game that really separates the boys from the men. More like the boys from the slightly older boys. Anyway, I'm not going to play that either. Just the fact that you know about it means you're probably surprisingly good at it. Yeah, that's true. How did you know, He-chan? Shizune frowns at Misha, telling me that she probably wasn't supposed to admit that so readily. I wouldn't say that I'm happy with their attempts to get me into the student council, but I'm a little curious about what the student council does here. I've never been on one before, or even known anybody who was a member, so it interests me. I also kind of like Shizune and Misha, so maybe it wouldn't be so bad. Okay, He-chan, how about Risk, the game of world domination? I don't know what that is. It's really fun, He-chan. You fight for control of the world with armies and everything. Sounds like Shizune would be good at it. If you want to play, we can after school. Ah, really, She-chan? We can play just for fun, He-chan. She-chan hasn't played in a long time, so if you want to, there are no strings attached. Well, okay. Okay, perfect. We'll see you after school in the student council room then, He-chan. Wait, why there? Because that's where we keep the game! I grimace to tell them how much I do not like this, but it's more for show than anything. So, in the end, I agree, but only after getting Shizune to acknowledge that I don't mean anything concrete, just by accepting to take a look around and play a game with her. Lunch ends, and we go back to class. During afternoon classes, the long-haired girl comes back and sits down in her seat without a word. Again, no one seems to notice, or if they do, no one says anything. I want to ask Misha about it, but I don't want to be nosy. After school, Shizune and Misha quickly find me by the first floor lobby and latch onto me, covering each flank in case I might try to escape. I feel a little offended, but I'd been considering it. Nevertheless, I'm a bit disturbed that enough people have made a break for it in the past that they're on their guard. What's with the escort? This doesn't make me feel very comfortable. In fact, it makes me feel like a dangerous prisoner being transported to his cell. What's wrong, He-chan? That's right, we're just going to go play a game of Risk, remember? I don't know, Misha. This all seems a little sinister to me. I start thinking that when we sit down to play the game, they'll tie me down and torture me until I agree to join the student council. Well, that's highly unlikely, but still. For some reason, it just seems like it would be so plausible. Getting to the student council room is as simple as turning 2 corners from where we started. What? That's it? This makes you guys being so on top of me seem a little silly. That's not true, He-chan. She-chan says that when their life is threatened, people have shown the capability to pull off superhuman bursts of speed. Life is threatened? Her expression unchanging, Misha signs something amusedly to Shizune, who makes a baffling face and puts her hands behind her back, looking pleased with herself. Misha feigns deafness and hums cheerily. Stop that, I know you heard me. You have no excuse, unlike Shizune. Shizune opens the door to the student council room. It's a very plain, sparsely decorated room, although it is quite large, maybe even a little larger than a classroom. There's a big table in the center surrounded by chairs, and a smaller desk prominently placed in the back that I assume is Shizune's. There are a few regular desks and chairs stacked to one side as well. Extras, perhaps? Aside from the tables and chairs, the room doesn't have much else to offer. Just a couple of filing cabinets and bookshelves stacked with old-school records and documents. Not much else. In fact, nothing else. This is a pretty bleak room. They could at least put a potted plant in here or something. But the most noticeable thing that this room doesn't have is other people. Are we early? No. What do you mean, no? Does it mean nobody else is coming today? Yeah, that's right. Before I manage to ask why that's the case, Shizune claps her hands together very energetically.
Hee-chan, let's play Risk. Come on, you promised, didn't you? You have to. Okay. Do you want to know the rules? We can explain to you while we set everything up.
While Misha is talking, Shizune takes out what looks like a board game from behind one of the filing cabinets and throws it on the table. Actually, this looks kind of interesting. After Misha spends a little too long for her liking running through the basics with a somewhat vague and confusing tutorial, Shizune cuts in and declares the game has started, with a decisive motion, slicing her arm through the air. Shizune's aggressiveness is rubbing off onto me. I start feeling more competitive than I intended to be when I agreed to this. Halfway into the game, while I try to ponder how to defend against Shizune's assault from two fronts, she breaks my concentration by drumming her fingers on the table to get my attention.
Hee-chan, Shi-chan wants you to know that you are taking too long to make a move. Shi-chan also says that she will let you keep Australia if you agree to join the student council.
I thought this was a game with no strings attached. Just the fact that she would dangle that over my head as an offer means that she knows I care about the outcome of this game. And anyway, no!
Shi-chan admires your fighting spirit and would be a benevolent dictator who will spare your people if you agree to join the student council.
You're so competitive, Shizune. She seems to take this as a compliment. I would expect the student council president to be a little more magnanimous.
Magnanimous?
She doesn't seem to know what the word means or how it's signed, so she pulls out a piece of paper and writes it for Shizune, who in return signs it back to Misha. Misha presses her index fingers against her temples as if trying to physically imprint the word into her memory. Suddenly, Shizune bursts into a flurry of gestures. Misha looks daunted by the pace of her heated signing.
Wait, please slow down, Shi-chan. Hee-chan? Shi-chan says you're going to lose.
Tell her I will crush her world empire with my rebellion.
Okay.
Those eyes of hers shine with childlike mischief.
She says you have no chance if you keep playing like this. No, you won't.
Alrighty, if we want to continue along towards Hanako's path, we want to play defensively here. Because if we attack aggressively, it's 1 point towards Shizune's route, so... We're going defensive mode, baby! It's likely that she's just trying to psych me out. Looking at the board again, I have a pretty good defense set up, and I'm not going to wreck it doing something reckless. A few turns later, I lose the game anyway. Shizune adjusts her glasses victoriously and allows herself to tentatively pump a fist in the air in celebration.
Hee-chan, you lost when you allowed me to take North America. I mean, Shi-chan, not me. Getting control of North America is ambitious because it provides a 5-army bonus, but you can attack it from 3 fronts, so you must defend them all. I thought you'd have more guts. How disappointing. Ambition, Hee-chan! Your play needs to be more daring. Ambition! Ambition! I was really excited when you took South America, but then you switched to playing defensively just because you gained a small advantage. That's no good, Hee-chan. You didn't take enough risks, and when you did, you didn't follow through. That's terrible, Hee-chan.
Damn, what's it to her if I play too carefully? There's no need to rub it in my face.
I wondered if you'd even be any good for the student council.
What's this? Reverse psychology? I guess I don't have to worry about joining or not in that case.
Giving up just like that? I expected more of you.
Seriously, Shizune trying to taunt me into joining the council? Besides, I don't even want to join. It's only my 2nd day. I can't make that kind of commitment. I haven't even taken a look at any other clubs yet, and these two, they're a little weird. Fine, I'll consider joining the council, but I want to take a look at the clubs before I decide.
Really, Hee-chan? You're not just saying that to make us feel better?
Yeah, I'm just not sure that I want to.
Ah. Okay, Hee-chan, but we're not going to give up so easily. You said maybe. There's still a chance you'll come around. Come on, we can really have fun. We could play more Risk, and maybe one day you could beat me. Unless we graduate before that.
That doesn't make me feel any less reluctant about joining, you know.
Certainly you are not that horrible at board games. Maybe we could play a game you know then, to give you a handicap.
I might have said that just to make you feel better after all.
Ah, that's cold, He-chan.
I take a glance at the clock on the wall and realize I've spent far longer playing Risk than I expected. Sorry, I think I have to go. I wanted to go to the library. It's not closed yet, is it? Shizune scratches her head and gestures at Misha. How hard can it be to determine whether the library's open? There's a clock right there on the wall.
It should be, unless the librarian is absent. I think you're right, Shi-chan. We think the library is open. It's on the second floor. Can't miss it. Do you want us to show you where it is?
No, thanks. It's okay. See you tomorrow.
Bye-bye!
One flight of stairs up and I run into problems. The second floor hallway is a carbon copy of the third floor one. Wide, of course, and plain like only hallways can be. The problem is that the library's whereabouts are not as easily determined as one would think. The classrooms are marked with signs stating which class they belong to, but then there is a plethora of other unmarked rooms. Is the library one of them, or is it just somewhere down the hallway? I bid on the later and choose my direction at random. After I turn around the corner, an unmarked door draws my attention because it's not closed. It's not open either, though, just barely ajar so that I can see that it's open and nothing else. It would make sense for the library door to be invitingly open, and while this one is not quite that, it's good enough. At the very least, it means that someone is inside and I can ask for directions, no matter how embarrassing that is. I gingerly push on the center of the door with my fingertips, every muscle in my arm ready to pull back at a moment's notice. The feeling of being an outsider to this school can't be shaken from my mind, so much so that I instinctively fear doing something wrong by entering. The door slowly creaks as if groaning from a deep sleep, though it is much easier to open than I had anticipated. Leaning over and poking my head ever further inside to gain sight of the room as fast as possible, the meek "hello" on my lips is quickly snatched away. Oh my. This is not as I was expecting. I mindlessly let the door open to its full extent, taking in the sight of the solitary figure taking center stage in the otherwise abandoned room. The situation steals my voice, leaving me standing at the doorway staring at the beautiful girl. Evidently, having taken her time to assess the situation, the girl gently puts down her teacup and opens her eyes, but doesn't look at me.
Hello there, may I help you?
Staring directly in front of herself, the movements of her lips seem to break the silence rather than the words. However, it's the soft, measured voice that reminds me she's a being separate from the room itself. Not only is she likely the tallest girl I've ever laid eyes on, but even among the foreigners I've met, she's strikingly distinct. Hi, sorry for intruding, I was just kinda lost. She takes a moment to formulate a response before speaking. Every action she takes feels as if it's carefully choreographed beforehand.
Care to take a seat?
Unexpected considering that I'm intruding upon her. Thanks. I slowly step towards another seat opposite her, the girl resting the teacup and saucer on the wooden table in between. The way she doesn't track my movements with her head is telling. That and the slight cloudiness to her eyes means she must be at least partially blind like Kenji. Come to think of it, her voice doesn't have any detectable accent either. I guess she must be half Japanese. As I take my seat, her composure takes me slightly off guard. Her air of relaxed confidence makes the silence entirely comfortable. The calming atmosphere is so very different from the student council office.
I take it you're a new student to Yamaku?
Yeah, I just transferred in yesterday. I get the distinct feeling my speech patterns don't match the formality of hers, accentuated by her restrained bow of greeting. One which I hasten to match before realizing the futility of the action.
I'm Lilly Sato. Pleased to meet you.
Hisao Nakai. She gives a nod before gesturing roughly in the direction of her teacup.
Would you care for a drink?
Sure. As much as it pains me, I can't keep step with her formality in the proceedings. She gives a kind nod, taking the request in stride. Without another word, she steps off the chair and prepares a second cup of tea from a collection of supplies laid out along a shelf. A brush here, a brush there, her left hand often lightly touching the side of whichever container she's pouring into. It seems to be a process she's followed dozens of times before. As I lean sideways to see her around her back, she seems to use her long dainty finger to measure the right amount of water in the cup. I kind of stumbled there. It's one thing to see the different disabilities the students in my class have, but it's quite another to see how everyone seems to adapt. Shizune and Misha have no problem working together to communicate to me, And Lilly herself seems to have workarounds for problems I'd never thought of. While I feel slightly guilty about her doing the work, she seems pleased to be following the correct process of the offer of preparing the drink.
So,
Her soft voice brings me out of my silent observance.
which room were you looking for? It's not often this classroom is visited after school.
The school library. Shizune and some classmates told me it was on this floor. She finishes pouring water into the teacup as she nods, a small metallic tapping coming from the teacup indicating it being stirred.
I'm aware of Miss Hakamichi, as are most students. To be with them means you're in class 3-3, no?
That's right, in the science room with Muto. She gives a small giggle before setting down the teaspoon and slowly walking towards the table, teacup, and saucer in hand.
He's quite a character. I imagine you'll come to like him. Most do.
As she sets down the tea, I gently take it and have a sip. I'm really more of a coffee person, but this seems like a rather bad moment to bring it up. Nonetheless, the smell's quite nice. I hardly think it'd be hard to choke down.
Thanks, Satu. It tastes really nice.
She smiles and quickly waves her hand in front of her face.
Lilly, please, there's no need to be too formal.
She says this in spite of her exceedingly well-bred speech. Oh well. I guess I should try and ask her about herself, as it really does seem as if she's catering to me. So, which class are you from? I imagine it's one of the third-year classes?
Correct, I'm in class 3-2, which is on the third floor, same as yours. It's taught by Miyagi, and is specifically for both blind and partially blind students.
I see. So sorry. I feel like slapping myself for the faux pas. Looking at her face, though, she doesn't seem in the least bit put off by it.
My, there's no need to change your speech on my account.
Sure. Sorry, I guess I'm really showing my newness here. An environment like this would be a big change, so I can't fault you for it. While the same can't be said for everyone, many have come to terms with their conditions. A category which would include her, it seems. All too ready to jump ship from this particular topic, I segue into another. Do you come here to drink tea often? It's a really nice place. Thinking on it, this might be her version of the place behind my school that I like to have lunch at.
I come here fairly often during lunchtimes. My duties as class representative don't leave enough time for an official club, so my friend and I use this room for having tea.
Class representative, huh? Compared to Shizune, her mannerisms seem to be almost completely opposite. While Shizune's blunt and fiercely driven, Lilly seems relaxed and calm, almost aloof. Come to think of it, she might be useful for a less biased view of the school's clubs. What kinds of clubs are there to join?
The more popular ones are the track and field club, which uses the field near the school during lunchtimes, the baseball club, and the book club in a room near the library. There are also numerous small ones too, those such as the art and music clubs.
At a time when I'm just wanting to get on my feet, rushing into a club right away seems slightly unappealing. I wonder if this school shares the same rule as my old one. Is it compulsory to join a club?
It isn't, though it is encouraged.
Ah, good. That's a relief. I've really let down my guard around this girl to let such a thing slip out. The fact seems to slightly amuse her. Not wanting my tea to get cold, I finally start drinking it as Lilly does the same. As I look over to the window over her shoulder, I notice the light coming into the room has a distinctly orange tint. Even here, time doesn't stand still. Huh? The time's gone quickly!
Sorry?
Right, she's blind. Of course she can't see the sun setting. It just looks like the sun's starting to set. It seems to come as a surprise for her. I guess she must have lost track of the time.
Sorry, Hisao. I didn't mean to keep you from the library for so long.
I quickly move to allay her concern. No, it's okay. The library's still open, isn't it? She pauses and takes a moment to think on it. It's probably something I should have asked Shizune when I had the chance, but Lilly seems likely to know in any case.
True. It's open until 6:30 during weekdays.
A quick glance at my watch confirms I have well enough time to get there. I might get going in that case. It's been nice talking with you, Lilly. She smiles and gives a deep nod, her hand still neatly folded on the table in front of her.
It was my pleasure. Oh, come to think of it, shall I show you to where the library is?
I couldn't possibly ask for more help. I should be able to find it alright. Well, unless my navigational skills fail me. Which they seem to have a habit of doing.
It's alright, I was going to be talking to the librarian there in any case. I could introduce you.
This gets better and better. It's pretty hard to deny her offer. If you're sure, then that'd be great. Thanks. As she stands up to follow me, she takes hold of a straight, retractable cane that has been slipped into the handle of her bag on the floor. Compared to the cane the boy in my class had, Lilly's looks much thinner and longer. His must be for support, whereas Lilly's is for navigation. Together we leave the peaceful room and enter the empty hallway on the way to the library. Side by side, my pace carefully slowed to match hers, we slowly walk through the hallway. It doesn't take long for us to arrive at the door to the warm-looking room, apparently situated in the center of the floor rather than either wing. Ladies first. She gives an appreciative smile at the gesture, taking the lead as we file in. To the left is the wooden library counter, with the library proper being on the right. It easily dwarfs my old school's library, with the distinct smell of old books giving the place an almost old-world air. There don't seem to be a lot of students here. Considering the time, it isn't a big surprise. Everyone's probably either in the school grounds or the dorms.
Yuko, are you here?
She says it to thin air, since the librarian doesn't seem to be present, and of course, Lilly can't see this. What's unexpected is that it draws a reaction. Something from under the counter thuds against it, followed by a quiet wail. Ah. The origin, apparently the librarian, quickly crawls out and bounces up to extremely rigid attention.
Hi, Lilly. How can I help you?
Her voice is strained in a failing attempt to sound casual, and she's rubbing the back of her head.
Good afternoon. What happened just now? I heard a strange sound. It's nothing. I just hit my head. See, I dropped an eraser under the desk, and while I was looking for a pencil, the pencil dropped. And when I was looking for both of them, you came and surprised me. Are you alright? I'm sorry, I couldn't know. It's okay. Sorry for making you worry. This is nothing. I've had worse happen to me. She's quick to reverse Lilly's apologies, almost frantically trying to push aside the possibility that she could be in any way inconvenienced by bashing her head on the counter. Yes, worse things have happened.
The girl fidgets with her fingers as Lilly doesn't seem to drop her concerned expression, and then shuffles some papers around the counter for no reason. A little shorter than Lilly, replete with glasses, freckles, and a very troubled look, she seems to fit a library perfectly.
Ah, Lilly, did you get my message? Message? Oh, the 2 imported books that arrived. Right, they finally came. I can't believe it took so long, but...
Amidst her celebrations, partially for managing to change the topic, I'm sure, she notices me from the corner of her eye and freezes on the spot when she does.
Oh no, I'm sorry for not noticing you before. Did you need to check out a book or return one? I'm sorry.
The way she can so quickly shift between moods is a little unsettling.
He's with me, Yuko. This is Hisao, a new student. Hisao, this is Yuko, the school librarian.
Pleased to meet you.
Hisao, right. Hisao, pleased to meet you too, Hisao.
For a second, she visibly attempts to engrave the name on her mind so she won't forget.
Yuko often arranges to import foreign books and braille for me. Would you like to tell Hisao a little something about the library?
Lilly's innocent suggestion is met with an expression of abject terror.
Please, Lilly, I can't. I don't know what he could be interested in. This is too much responsibility.
How's it any responsibility at all? I don't get. But her objection is so sincere, I don't doubt for a second that she would rather disembowel herself on the spot than tell me where the light novels are.
But...
So, there are a lot of books in Braille here. I attempt to save the day by asking the first thing that pops into my head. It seems to work at least partially, as Yuko seems to not exactly relax, but at least look slightly less tense. Well, I think about a third or fourth of Yamaku's library is either in Braille or audio. Makes sense given all the blind students that be here. If it's only that, how come this library is so big in the first place? Well, we get a lot of new books regularly because the library is adequately endowed. That's probably why. They spend more on new books than on my salary, and then I have to organize and shelve all of them. It's so troublesome, and they waste so much. I wish I could quit this job. A very awkward silence follows this revelation of too much information. I'll go check the aisles then, if you don't mind. It's probably best for all of us if she doesn't keep talking to me.
Very well. Meanwhile, Yuko, I would have those books if it's alright with you.
My first impression was right. The library is surprisingly big. Ambling down the narrow aisles, I studied the spines of the books in random order, occasionally slotting one out to read the blurb, taking it with me if it looks good. In a few moments, I have a respectable stack of books in my arms. I guess I'll never be stuck for choice in here. The normality of the library sinks in. Sure, there are large print and braille books scattered throughout, but it is what it is, a library. It's as if the calm mood from the room I had tea with Lilly and snuck in with us here. Oh, wait, let me read that again. It's as if the calm mood from the room I had tea with Lilly and snuck with us in here, unless it was here to begin with. Something about that puts me at ease, just like before. I reach the end of the aisle and find a collection of desks, set up for study or personal reading. Going a little further, though, I discover a nice quiet corner at the back. While the rest of the library has the odd student sitting at a desk either reading or stealthily sleeping, the back is pretty much deserted. As I glance around, I see someone who I recognize sitting on one of several beanbags. And, you know what? We're gonna cut it off here. For very obvious reasons. Anyway, stay tuned for Let's Play Katawa Shoujo, Part 4, when I meet the girl of my dreams, and hopefully the girl of your dreams too, my fellow peoples. Anyways, later all.